Good evening. I'd like to call to order the March 15th regular board meeting for Lathrop-Manteca Fire District. Item number 2, there was no closed session, so we'll go into item number 3, a roll call.
Chairman Jeremy Coe.
Present.
Vice Chair John Gish. Here. Director Robert Gleason.
Present.
Director Ty Payton. Director Gloriana Rhodes. Present. Thank you.
Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll start with declaration of conflicts of interest to my left.
None.
None? None here. Item number 6, presentations.
Well, Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the board, we're going to be presenting a resolution tonight to Eric Forberg for a Valor ribbon. And first, I would like to read a letter that I received from the Sacramento Police Department. So the police chief from Sacramento, Daniel Hahn, sent me a letter, and it reads, Dear Chief Neely, on behalf of the Sacramento Police Department, I'd like to commend Lathrop-Manteca Fire Protection District Captain Eric Forberg for his invaluable assistance he provided to one of our officers on February 22nd, 2018. A call had been received regarding a subject armed with a knife walking in the roadway. Uniformed patrol officers arrived, located the subject, and recognized that he was experiencing a mental crisis. The man was transported to a nearby hospital for a medical evaluation. During the medical intake process, the male subject ran from the facility and into an adjacent neighborhood. The transporting officer gave chase. At the well-traveled intersection of 39 and 8th Street, the subject stopped and faced the pursuing officer. While attempting to restrain the subject, the suspect engaged the officer in a physical altercation. During the struggle, the pair came to rest on the ground, and the suspect gained control of the officer's duty pistol. While wrestling for control of the firearm, the suspect attempted to point the gun towards the officer and ultimately discharged 3 rounds. Off-duty, Captain Forberg was traveling in the vicinity in his personal vehicle when he observed the scuffle. He stopped, exited his vehicle, and without hesitation approached the scene and advised he was here to help. He physically restrained the suspect, which allowed the officer the opportunity to successfully gain control of his firearm. Ultimately, the suspect was safely arrested and medically examined and booked for attempted murder. I would like to express my gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to Captain Eric Forberg. His quick and courageous actions and willingness to come to the aid of the officer directly contributed to the successful and safe apprehension of the suspects without any further harm to himself, the officer, or members of our community. Captain Forberg's cooperation and team spirit are a testament to your organization and his character. Sincerely, Daniel Hahn, Chief of Police, Sacramento. So, when we received this letter, we had heard that there was something, but I know that there was, Eric didn't want to make a big deal about it. But after receiving this letter and putting this in obviously his file, we also wanted to acknowledge him with a ribbon of valor for his dedication to serving the community, and we put a resolution together for the board to do that.
All right.
Very awesome. And I'll go ahead and read that resolution now. Before the Board of the Directors of the Lathrop-Manteca Fire Protection District.
Could we go ahead and get Eric
Sure.
up to, and why don't you bring that?
Okay. Before the Board of Directors of the Lathrop-Manteca Fire District, Resolution 2018-04, resolution to recognize Captain Eric Forberg for valor and courage. Whereas a regular board meeting was held and conducted in the Lathrop-Manteca Fire District, County of San Joaquin, State of California, on March 15, 2018, and whereas the Lathrop-Manteca Fire Protection District recognizes Captain Forberg for the invaluable assistance he provided to the City of Sacramento Police Department on February 22nd. And whereas Captain Forberg, without hesitation, assisted the Sacramento Police Department in physically restraining an armed suspect, allowing the police to regain control of the situation. And whereas Captain Forberg's valor and courageous actions and willingness to come to the aid of the officer directly contributed to the successful and safe apprehension of the suspect without any further harm to himself, the officer, or members of the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Lathrop-Manteca Fire District Board of Directors do hereby recognize Captain Forberg's valor and team spirit are a testament to his character. Presented and adopted on the 15th day of March 2018 by the Board of Directors of the Lathrop-Manteca Fire District. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And would you like have a family member pin that or anything?
Well,
Yeah, okay. I just thought.
if you'd like to say something, though.
Yeah.
I'm very humbled and very honored. Thank you all. Thank you, Chief. Chief was right. I really wanted to keep a low profile. It's not something I did for any other reason than somebody needed help, and it's one of those things that we're never really off duty once you sign up for this, and you just, I don't think any of us, I would hope none of us would stand by and let something happen when there's something that could be done. That's why we're, in the fire service, and that's what we're here for. So this community, especially, because this is where I come to work to serve them, but that doesn't mean I'm off. That doesn't mean I'm not a firefighter when I'm not here. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Rose, thank you. Congratulations. Mr. Payton.
Are you going to ask us to say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just wanted to add, I did see the story on the news, and at that time I was not aware of the close connection that of the people involved in that. So when I came to learn that, I was very surprised and just was really in awe that it was somebody from our district that was there for that. So I thought that was awesome. The average person faced in a situation like that probably wouldn't do that, unfortunately. They have an initial reaction of fight or flight, and usually it's flight. So I'm glad that you remember that when you took an oath here many years ago, when you're sworn in, you're here to protect the public, whether it's here in this district, in this state, county, and you did just that. So again, thank you for that. Any more comments from the board?
Yes. Mrs. Forberg and the children, congratulations. You should be very, very proud. I know that receiving honors is sometimes very difficult for a lot of people, but I commend you for, accepting it. There's a bigger thing here, too, is the showing children that they can grow up to be people that count, the people that matter, is very, very important. And I don't think that there is any firefighter in our district or in many other districts that wouldn't do the same. Unfortunately, it fell on your lap, and we want you safe, and I'm glad you are safe. But take the honor and pat yourself on the back because you did a great thing. And it would have possibly been another woman and some children mourning the loss of a father had you not stepped in to help. So thank you.
I say the same thing that both them said. Thank you and congratulations. Job well done.
Actually, I got a little late, so this may have been done already, but if it hasn't been done, would you introduce your family to us, please?
Okay, so
It hasn't, so that's a good point.
and my beautiful wife of almost 15 years and 2 months, Alicia. This is my daughter Avery, her mini-me. This is my son Brennan, he's my mini-me. And then this one is
The blend.
Colin, ABC. It goes, and he's a little bit of everything and really keeps us on our toes.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Well, we thank you, and we thank your family for allowing you to come work with us. It's when you do. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, sir.
I'm not really surprised that it was Eric. I've had some blunders in my life where I kind of needed his help with my Jeep because it got stuck someplace, and so I call him up. And he's like, well, okay, I get off duty at 8 in the morning. It'd take me 4 hours to get up there, but I'm on my way, and he just has that. He's always had that for me, that I'm going to come and help attitude. And so congratulations. I'm honored to have known you.
Okay. Not only did the officer able to go home safely that night, but I'm glad you're also able to go safely home that night too. So again, thank you. If there's no other comments, is there any comments from the public regarding this? If not, we'll go to public comment. Do we have any interest cards? Okay.
We do, Mr. Chair. I have a request from Carrie Harris.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Carrie Harris.
It's on.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Harris, and I'm here because on August 3rd, 2010, we had a grandbaby that got into the pool and almost drowned. And that little girl, in 5 days, will turn 10.
Wow.
And I wanted to come and represent our family and just thank the police, or the fire department. I'm a little nervous for some reason. I have my
understand.
daughter and her 4 daughters, including Brooklyn, the one that was 2 at the time. And Brooklyn and her 3 sisters have written cards for you guys. And, we live over by 32. And so the quick response, by the grace of God, I did CPR, which I hadn't had since high school. It was a very scary time, as you can imagine. And I didn't realize until the fire truck got there, I needed to wrap her in. But it was just a combination of, God helping me to help her, and then the fire guys coming and getting her comfortable into the hospital, and our family is so grateful. So maybe Brooklyn can come up and her sisters, and they can present their cards. Come on, girls. So, the 2 older ones, they're pretty close in age. You can see they're stepping stones here. And the 2 oldest ones were on the love seat watching Brooke laying on the floor and me giving her the CPR. And they still remember that. And they remember the fire truck coming and them running in. And it left quite an impression on them. So I don't know, should they give these to you, Chief? Or so if you guys want to grab your cards and maybe hand them out.
What's the chances we have that crew here today that was involved in that? Yeah.
So anyway, we just wanted to say how grateful we are for you guys and for the quick response. And thank you so much for helping our family that night. You remember.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We appreciate you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's crazy.
10 years old, wow.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Good job, girls. See you back out there?
Thank you guys for the cards.
My daughter's actually my son.
Chair. You kidding?
So that was a real tough time for our organization. If you remember back then, we were debating on having the brown out and close and looking at different options of staffing models. And so we one of the biggest advocates for that was Marty and Carrie coming in and supporting that response that provided that
remember,
life-saving to their granddaughter. So I know it's real important to have that response out there and be able to provide that service. And they helped us, carry some water with LAFCO and with the Board of Supervisors, and they've been a big supporter of that. So we really appreciate that end of the support that they give us too. So thank you guys very much.
Yes.
Well, we think we're lucky to have you. And over the years, whether it's Tough Boy or personal things, my mother had an incident on West Whitburn Road and that you responded to. But here's 8 years later, and we're celebrating her 10th birthday here this week. And we thought, you know what, this would be a good time. We're lucky she's with us. She has no issues at all. I couldn't believe how fast the department got there. I mean, she'd swallowed this water, she wasn't breathing. And next thing we look up and you guys walk in, and then we're in shock, but yet you walked us through what we needed to do, getting her to the hospital, covering her with blankets. And she stayed overnight in the hospital, but she came home the next day with no problems. The shock to the two oldest girls that were with her, that was pretty significant. And plus we had two other kids there that were helping to watch the kids that were swimming. They were in shock. But just thank you so much, and I think it's fitting that as you're honoring department members tonight, that we came in and we also just thanked you. So thanks for the time. We appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Harris family. Director Rhodes?
Thank you so much for coming in and doing what you've done, bringing the girls. Brooklyn, correct? This is firefighters, it's one of those professions where, I'm not a firefighter, but I hear it a lot from my own kid. It's one of those professions where once you're done with your particular job, that one day or that one call, you really don't know how it all turned out. And I think that knowing those good successes and those good stories, seeing it, is believing it, and it gives you that, strength to continue on. And Brooklyn, I want to tell you that 29 years ago, way before you were born, this district, firefighters of this district, saved my own kid. He was 18 years old. He ended up, because of that, becoming a firefighter. So we are looking for more women in the fire district. So when you grow up, if you want to be a firefighter, do all of your classes, do all of your testing, and we would love to have you here. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, thank you again, Harris family. I appreciate you doing
It is
that.
a reminder of how important Station 3 is.
Yes, indeed.
Two.
Okay, consent items.
Consent calendar, item 8.1, February 15, 2018, regular board meeting minutes. Item 8.2, monthly register of warrants. Item 8.3, receive and file February 2018 incident and training report. Item 8.4, receive and file monthly year-to-date budget report.
Okay.
I so move.
Second?
Yeah, I have to abstain from 8.1 because I wasn't here.
Okay. There,
Amend the motion needs to be amended. It's just that,
I didn't hear a motion. Did you? Okay.
I'll amend it to approve all items, or 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.
Okay. Motion on the floor.
Second.
Have a second?
Oh, yeah, I have to amend it. And actually, you could have continued with it, just saying that he abstained.
but our tradition is how it's always been done separately. And so to
Yeah, I
keep-
know, it's,
So we have a precedent to keep it separate.
so I'll
That's all.
amend my second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Vice Chair Gish, seconded by Rhodes. I guess you seconded before you did? I didn't hear it. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm not going to fight it for a second.
Okay.
Director Rhodes,
Yes.
Director Payton,
Yes.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gish,
Yes.
Chairman Coe.
Yes. Scheduled items, 9.1.
You have to go back to 8.1.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Do I have a motion for 8.1?
Second?
Okay, I have a motion by Gleason, a second by Rhodes. Roll call for that.
Director Rhodes,
Yes.
Director Payton,
Abstain.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gish,
Yes.
Chairman Coe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And schedule item 9.1, approve and authorize the fire chief to hire additional administration office staff.
So moved.
So this, this item, we've gone back and forth of when we want to bring this to you. We're growing, and we're going to need additional staff. We're trying to figure out how we can accommodate that in our office. It's small. Once the new station and the admin building is built, it'll be able to afford to have the additional staff in space there. But right now, so we're kind of working through, we do need help there, so Executive Assistant Becky Ariola will do the presentation on that.
Thank you, Chief. So item 9.1, to approve and authorize the fire chief to hire additional administrative office staff. We're requesting the fire board to approve and authorize the fire chief to hire the additional administrative staff. Staff feels filling a part-time office clerk position at the time would currently greatly help separate duties and enable more efficient workloads. Since 2014, the position of the office clerk was added to the ranks of the administration staff by board approval on March 20th, 2014. Within the last audits, we have found we need further separation of duties and a clear oversight by management. In 2016-2017, as we wrapped up the 15-16 audit and commenced the 16-17 audit, it was very apparent staff was working under multiple hats and needed to constantly be shifting from one task to another. After the vacancy of the office clerk during 2017, management decided to bring in an office assistant to assist with some of the more pertinent and confidential items that were continuing to come in more rapidly with the growth of the department. The executive assistant/business manager position within the administration office oversees all admin and clerical staff. This position currently also is in charge of payroll, human resources, board clerk duties, and is assistant to the fire chief, amongst other specialized projects and day-to-day office management tasks. Bringing on a part-time office clerk will now assist with separation of some duties and time management of high-demand seasons. Management will then be evaluating the duties that each clerical staff member is conducting to ensure each is being done to their highest ability within their same scope of work, and to ensure we are meeting recommendations from our auditors on separation and oversight of duties as well. With this, staff recommends the fire board to approve and authorize the fire chief to hire additional administration office staff. Currently, we'll be looking at a part-time position, so the fiscal impact would be approximately, and this is based on a high end of 25 hours per week, so that would be about $17,000 to $19,500 annually. depending on the experience of the potential employee. And this amount will be an impact to the general fund. However, the 5-year model will be able to demonstrate and absorb how that amount will be managed into the budget. Any questions?
Okay, I'll start on my left.
I have no questions. We've talked about our expansion. We've talked about staff. We've looked at and have auditors' recommendations for what we should be doing in separation of duties so that there's checks and balances. So I have no questions.
Yeah, just a quick question. The proposal says administrative staff, but what we're talking about is this one part-time person, correct?
Vice Chair.
We're growing.
I have no question. I'm happy that we're going more into recommendations of the audit.
Well, during my campaign, one of the things that was presented to me from staff was hoping to someday see a full-time HR department, and we are growing with the last 2 badge pinning ceremonies. That's obvious now, and I am happy to see this on the agenda and looking forward for a motion.
So move that we adopt and authorize the chief to hire another part-time person.
I'll second it.
Motion by Gleason, second by Vice Chair Gish. Roll call.
Director Rhodes?
Yes.
Director Payton?
Yes.
Director Gleason?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gish?
Yes.
Chairman Coe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Informational items, update on Fire Station 31 expansion project.
All right.
So we have a real quick slide. I think we just have the one slide. This was the plan option that was directed back to staff to kind of get an idea of cost. And we got that the other day after we met with them again. And so I want you guys to have some good discussion up there. So I'll go ahead and give you that number is 2.2 million. So going back, we remember that we came with you with 350,000 and said, hey, we could probably come up with a little bit of more money for the expansion process. I'm not saying it's not doable, but what I am saying is we're going to have to find other avenues besides the fire facility fee to be able to fund that. And so there's a lot of options. We could borrow the money. We can get some of the money from Measure C if we can accommodate that money could be spent there through the oversight committee. There's other avenues to get money to support that. We don't have the 2.2 million out of fire facility fee to be able to apply it there. We've got some money that has come in, but not that. And then we started talking a little bit during the last meeting of, well, is this, now that we've moved the rescue and the engine over to Station 34, is this really applicable to go with, 7 dorms or 8 dorms? How many personnel are really going to respond from that station? And I think I took that to heart, and I went back and I looked at where that station's located and what community it responds to. Single residential family. It's not going to have it's not going to be a commercial area. It's got some commercial in the area, but we have, trucks that we can put in other area locations. So I think we're going to stick with that's going to be a single engine response house with the battalion out of it. So we would have we'd need some extra need to expand that, moving the battalion over there since we're going to leave Fours as the 2 response company. So with that in mind, I think that we may be able to modify this a little bit, but I don't know how much. So I want the board to have some discussion and give us direction. I'm sorry if I covered too much.
No, that's okay.
No?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yeah.
Okay, we are thinking in terms of what is already there. However, as somebody who understands the existing general plan of the city of Lathrop, which, by the way, that's going to be amended, but you've got a lot of territory on the east side that will be commercial and retail and residential and so forth. You've got all of, we were just talking earlier, I was looking at the price of homes in the city of Lathrop. And when I was looking at those houses down Lathrop Road, and most of them are not in very good condition, yet one is for sale for $1.2 million. And I thought, what the heck? And I remembered it has to do with the zoning. So where I'm going with this is that eventually, the east side is going to carry a big burden as well for that station, for Station 31. So I don't want to put us in a situation where we do improvements because of what is now, and then not think in terms of where we're heading, and hopefully sooner than later. The other thing is, you know where I'm coming from. For 20, how old is the city now? 29. For 29 years now, all of the fire facility fees have gone mostly for new building, and more new building, and more new building, but all of the new building is going to the west side. The west side doesn't have any problems right now. I don't foresee it ever will. The east side is the one that, as time goes by, will continue to deteriorate and deteriorate. So if we're going to do something, we need to really look at what's there now and what's there in the future. I'm not Director Gleason, I believe you were on city council when we did this building, correct? Or a portion of the time there?
This one we're in?
Yes.
Yeah, it was planned when we were
Yeah.
on council.
But the thing was, when we wanted to build this, I mean, it was the same thing. We really didn't have the money. We didn't really have the need. However, we're talking now, and there's more need for it. But we looked at other options, thankful to council member then at the time, Augie Beltran, who knew a lot of different methods to do. And we did this building in a design, build, lease method, and we paid it off before time. Now, I'm not saying that we need to get into debt or look at these things, but what I'm saying is, let's first look at what we think makes sense to put there, not because of what we have today, but because of what we're eventually going to have. And then when we know that, then we can move forward on it. And then I got to tell you, as a person who lives on the east side of Lathrop, and you notice that I don't call it West and, I don't call it Mossdale and River Islands and historical Lathrop or any of that anymore, because the reality is we have come to a point where the city east side is becoming the east side. And I would like to see that for the first time, we put a lot of effort, a lot of thought, and some money into that station. And I'll put it to you this way. When the firefighters needed curtains 25 years ago, the women in the chamber, and I was part of it, we came up with a fundraiser for those things that you have there. They're still there. The reality is that is how this station has operated in terms of improvements for years and years and years, until pretty much you came, and then you started looking at, oh no, we need to do the roof, we need to do this, we need to do that. But it went through a lot of years of, good women in the community trying to do something, good men in the community like Benny trying to do something. So I want to see that if we're going to move forward with something there, it makes sense for today and for tomorrow. And the money, what we found out for construction, I wish it was the same for payroll and materials and equipment and everything else. But for buildings, usually there is always a way to get it done. And that's my position.
Okay. I apologize, Director Payne. You sit on the 2x2. I should have let you speak first. Did you want to add anything to the discussions? And
I'll wait and hear how the discussion goes. And
okay.
Do we have the other schematics available for us to take a look at tonight?
I can,
I
Within
think that
previous-
we're pretty much on the consensus. We're going to have to do something to this magnitude to go out. It's just how I don't think we argued that it didn't have to happen this way. I think we were deciding maybe we could combine the bedrooms, but I think that we all agreed at the end of that the individual bedrooms is the safest way to go. The union did participate. The membership did come to that last meeting and did participate in that. And again, we debated the room, but I think Director Payton has a great point, is that you pay a little bit more for the extra rooms now, saves you, a lot of money later on down the road, and potential, lawsuits and litigation of, people that didn't have their own little private area to work and I mean, to sleep and to have that privacy. So I think it looks good. We're not trying to change the layout for the most part. We may, for now, move one of the dorms into an office for the battalion, and then have 3 people, and then there's sleeping quarters for other people. But the other, if you want to see the other ones, can you bring them up, or? Yeah, we can bring them up for you, though. Take a look.
Right.
But I don't think we,
Just to remind us of.
yeah.
It's been a month.
Director Gleason, if you look in your binder, it's in the previous months.
I really prefer to have things sent to me electronically versus.
Well, you asked for something, I'm just saying it's available for you in your binder.
All right, we'll try to put it up toward you, too.
Now I gotta look for it. I'm in previous. Yeah, so just reiterate. Send it to me
So
electronically.
unfortunately, we don't have one of the current layout. That's something that we are missing.
Yeah,
So there's, that was C, that's just the option, but B's, all those were just changes. There's, I
There's the
think,
original.
yeah. I think that's what the original plan was, right, when we first,
The original option, yes.
yeah, the original option. We have it up if you want to look. That's without expanding
That's staying within the current
footprint,
footprint.
yeah.
I kind of agree with Board Member Rhodes with Station 31, and wouldn't it better serve with having more people at 31 with the different equipment that's there? That way they can kind of cross-staff instead of having to come from 34 to go there to pick up some specialized, we're killing 5 minutes on a good day in traffic. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
Because didn't Manteca just posted with their 35, they over a year it just went up, what, $1 million or something like that, just in construction costs?
Yeah, a couple million. I think it went from 2.5 to 4.2 or something
And the
like
same thing
that.
would probably happen with this.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I just wanted to bring it for you guys to discuss. And I guess the next step for direction after you have this discussion is for us to firm up this plan with the architect and move forward with because this was somewhat of a estimated guess. And so we can fine tune it, and then we can go out to bid. I can bring back the capital improvement plan for you to approve. And once we do that, then I can look at the funding, how we're going to fund it, and then bring that back for your approval, and we can get started. That's really what the next phases are going to be. It's just fine tuning this, but we just want to make sure that you understand, so that we've kind of decided that we're going to put the 2 companies, right, the rescue and the at-4s. That's a decision we've made. And then I agree that there'll be more staffing that gets, allocated towards one as we grow. And there'll be other pieces of apparatus that we can staff there. I mean, the water tender gets staffed there. We usually lose a person on that. So even if we just added one more person, then we could have the water tender sent and the full engine complement. There's other ways to augment that staffing without putting a brand new truck there. Because we have a truck coming out of there now. That's what we bought that truck for, single axle, so that it can maneuver around that area. So that truck / engine, not quite such as the telesquirt, a lot better, but it's still going to stay there. It's not moving. So you'll have that truck capacity plus the engine capacity, but we need to expand that because the water tender response and the dive response. So it'll grow, but you're right. That's why we don't recommend not going with the plan, but it's obviously, I got to bring the price to you. So the 2.2 is more than we had planned on right out of the fire facility fee.
So again, this is informational. It's not asking for
I know, I'm
approval,
just,
but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, this is a lot like when we first started, with bond issues and, those kinds of things, be able to finance some of the things that we had to do just when Lathrop was kind of brand new, so.
So the bottom line cost for the building is driven by how many dorms are going to be in the building? No?
No, I think the bottom line of the cost being driven up is going outside of the footprint.
But that's dependent on the number of dorms, right?
True.
Right.
Total square footage, though, because there's a lobby, if you bring up the other one. We also expand, see where the office is. We also, not the dorms, but if you go down, the office has changed, there's a lobby now, we put a toilet up front. So there's more things that we added, not added to it. If we were to take all that out and make the office a little smaller and maybe get rid of one of the bathrooms, it would be less.
Okay.
So, yes and no. You're right, but it's just not the dorms.
Well, okay, I get that. But one of the things that I've been pushing for and that I think we have agreed to is that we would have individual dorm rooms, right? So that people will not have to share a dorm room.
Yep.
Right? Okay, and so
Yeah. And
as long as that's part of the plan, then
That's the main, yeah.
yes.
And I think as we build stations in the future, that's how we're going to do. I think that we're setting precedents now, and as we move forward, we're going to do the individual dorms. I think it's it's good. And there was talk, just so, for, not transparency, but to bring the conversation back out, that, the president, union president brought up, well, we don't want people to go into their rooms and hide. But that's manageable. That's a company officer's job, is to bring those individuals out and have them be part of the fire family and work together as a team and do all that. That's a manager's job. That's a captain's job to do that kind of stuff. So even though you have there's not a deficit to have individual rooms, but yet at the end of the day or end of the night or when it's time to go to bed or get some rest or shut eye, or you have your own individual space that you can go and do that in. And I think that was a valid point you made.
Mr. Chair, can I just add something, too, that I forgot to say earlier?
Yes, you may.
One of the things, too, that I did forget to say is this. By the time we finish the new station, we're going to already be in need of the next one. And I foresee that that's going to be going on for at least 35 years as we build. So please also take into consideration that adding people to one station like we're doing now, because we have to bring more people in, may be something that we continue to do for many years to come.
I'm glad you brought up the other people's opinions that were discussed in our meeting. If you recall, back in December when this was first presented, there seemed to be an urgent need to do this construction, but we found a way to not have to make that happen. I'm somewhere in the middle. I do agree that if we do something now, it's going to be cheaper than if we do it later. I do disagree on the need to double staff that station in addition to another station that's already double staffed. So that's where I'm kind of, you don't see that going on in this county right now, anywhere else. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not seeing that very often because it's hard enough to find enough personnel to staff the stations that some districts have, that they can't even staff those. So we're in a unique position where we're building a station. We're possibly going to be building another one not too much longer after that. I don't foresee us being able to, without going through the budget very carefully, I don't foresee us being able to double staff that station in the next 5 years. We can build it out so it's ready, and maybe we do that now, but I don't see us being able to double staff it in addition to Station 34 that's already double staffed.
Well, the double staffing at 34 is going to go bye-bye because they're going to go to 35. But
That's
in the
not
future,
what,
we'll
that's
be
not
able when we.
what, that's not what was presented to me. So,
So yeah, no, we're going to keep the rescue staffed. You're right, the personnel that are on there, so we have a very unique, and it's a good problem to have. So I'll give you a little bit of the background, what's going to transpire over some time. First of all, we hired 9 and 11, because we had to hire 2 spots to fill, brand-new firefighters. And we have them staffing that rescue, and we have a driver qualified, and we're testing for captains. Within the next couple of years, we're gonna have to test for engineers, and we may have to go outside to actually bring engineers in, because there's gonna be probably, if there's some retirements within the next couple of years, we're probably gonna need about 5 engineers. And we just hired brand-new firefighters, and I'm not sure if all of them are gonna be capable to move up into the engineer spot in that time frame. So, looking at that, so I have to move 3 people over there. I have to may have to hire people from the outside to bring them in, to bring that over. One of the things that we're going to continue to do, and I already brought up to the Measure C Oversight Committee, is staff the rescue. We may have to do a combination staffing of 2 and 2 until we can get a 3rd person back on the engine, but we want to maintain that staffing level of that rescue. So you're correct, there's people going to move over to that new station, but we are committed to staffing that rescue also. Did I answer that question?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were right. Initially, they were coming in and going over, but we have, as the money's coming in from Measure C, we'll be able to maintain that staffing of that rescue and continue to staff that double staff house.
At Station 34.
Yes.
Yes.
Question. So how many homes are now being prepped? Or, the infrastructure is being put in over by Generation Center. How many homes is that?
So that's a great point. So that's about, I think they're putting 400 homes right now, but I think that's estimated to have 750 to 800 homes infill of that area. And I think there's a school coming in also.
And then north of Lathrop High, because that's in the general plan. And looking at that, and that's where Station 36, in that general vicinity, right? For 36 to come in. And the way things are being built and proposed, we're going to blink an eye and we're going to be needing another station. And we're going to be kind of in the same situation. We're going to have a response without a station yet, and we're going to be doubling up. Yeah, and then I agree with what's going on in the acres. There's a lot of properties that can be, they're zoned where they could turn it over into, a commercial area along Lathrop Road. And then we've got commercial along those areas. I think we've got a lot of infill that could occur on the east side of I-5 that would eventually, that would require a 2-engine company, at least another truck or something. I don't know, I'm looking ahead, like the 20-year plan, as to what could actually occur. And if we wait, then we're gonna be behind the 8 ball, and we may not be at it. You can't move fast enough in building. So if we look at building now, where the cost is relatively cheap in comparison of something 5 years, 8 years out down the road, I don't know, I just think we should really look at, keep continuing doing this plan, and look at staffing 2 companies in this house.
And I think that'll be an option that we'll have to make when that time comes. I think you guys are saying the same thing. You're all saying the same thing up there. I think we're building it to do that if we have to. We're going to keep that option available. We can utilize a little bit of space for the battalion, give them an office there, take dorm 1, make it an office and it can be turned back into a dorm. And then he has his own dorm, and then you have three people, and then you have 2 extra spaces that you can fill in with. And then if for some reason we need to double staff it, there's 7 spots where you can have 4 on a truck and 3 on an engine. And then we move the battalion to another location. And so there's options that we can have. That could be at the new station, that could be at existing station. We could relocate Station 32 and put the battalion out there. There's several options that we have. That's another thing that's coming down the road. There's a lot of commercial growth going on. We're going to probably do a presentation next month with you from the prevention side, where he's going to go over all the new development, new commercial property that's coming in, that's proposed. So Richland, who owned the other side of where Madruga is over there on the other side of 120. That was annexed into the city. They sold that to a developer, and they're ready to go. And that's going to be almost 4 million. They've changed it about 4 million square feet of commercial warehousing. They're also on the other side looking at somebody potentially coming in there. And so if somebody comes into Gateway or Gateway builds out, that's another side of the old SLSP, then you're looking at, another 300, 400, 4 million square feet of stuff over there. That's going to be a station required over there. That's in the plan also. So there's a lot happening with our organization. I think this is a component, and it has to be addressed, and we have to look at it. And I think that what you're saying is valid, and I think what Chairman Coe is saying is valid. Sorry, Chairman Coe is saying, and Director Gleason, you're saying it the same thing. We'll build it just in case. And if we need to double staff it because we can't get a station that's closer to the north side built fast enough, we can always house them there until we can get it built.
Mr. Chair, can I? Another thing too is, I don't want to go into a long discussion in terms of the makeup of East Lathrop. But one of the things that clicked when I was at the meeting here on Monday was they're going to be amending the general plan. Well, the one thing we know in Lathrop that has been a problem since day one that this general plan is going to have to, by law, address is affordable housing. And I'm not talking about affordable housing, single, residential. I'm talking about the apartment buildings, the condos and everything else. When you look at the makeup of the city, the only lots that are available, sizes big enough for that are mostly still in the east side. I'm thinking in terms of not only, I'm thinking about the backyard, your backyard, Benny, all of those places that exist in the city of Lathrop where the lots are not consistent with a normal residential lot, that people are going to want to start investing once they see, when people start realizing that there is a house on Lathrop Road that is falling apart, that is selling for $1.2 million, people are going to start in the east side, starting to realize that they do have potentials out here to do a lot of other things beside just selling as a single home. Plus, nobody's going to buy a dilapidated single home for $1.2 million unless they want to invest in bigger and better. So we need to consider that Station 31 is still going to be the hub right there of things that are not just necessarily like everything else on the other side.
So as a member of the 2x2 on this, I think we should move forward with looking at options and ways to come up with 2.2 to 2.5. If they say 2.2, expect 2.5. So I would suggest we do that. I don't know if I necessarily like that necessarily floor plan. Instead of going east and north, I'd personally like to just go east and not north as well, and I think there's some options with that. So I would like to see the 2x2 meet again within the month and talk about that.
I agree.
So I think the consensus from everyone here is we should still explore how we're going to pay for that.
I have a request, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
A request from Benny Gatto.
Mr. Gatto.
Just a little tidbit, ladies and gentlemen. If you remember when that station was built in 1974, we hired our first paid chief. And he took on the role of building that station, and he was criticized from one end to the other. Mm-hmm. Why are you building that big monstrosity? Today, you have that in your advantage right now. If he'd built a station like 2 and 3, you'd really be in trouble. So remember that the foresight that he had to build that station as big as it is today, back then, like I said, it's very much in your favor right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
I think individual dorms would have been nice when I was spending the night, because we had a captain who you could hear him all over when he snored. I mean, it was bad, keep you awake. But then with individual rooms, it'd be nice.
Well, in my house, doesn't matter if the doors are closed, you can still hear me snore. Any other comments from the public as well? Nope. Okay, informational item 10.2.
So we have the review of the monthly warrant approval process, and I'm going to have the accounts payable, Rhoda Bowman, Rhoda Rhodes, I'm sorry. She's going to do the presentation on that.
It's confusing when you said, it's like, I'm doing what?
I know.
Review of the monthly warrant approval process. Due to the delay in receiving checks from the county, LMFD is in jeopardy of paying warrants late, thus incurring late fees or penalties. Staff is looking at requesting special checks for warrants with a due date prior to the scheduled monthly fire board meeting, as well as warrants received after the meeting with a due date before the next scheduled meeting. Warrants received with the due date prior to the meeting. The amount shown is an average of 6 months. Verizon, San Joaquin Regional Fire Dispatch, Vision Service Plan. Warrants received after the meeting, due before the next meeting. Amount shown, average 6 months. It's PG&E, Assurant, and CalPERS. Special check requests will be reflected on the current month's warrant spreadsheet. So, do you have any?
A little bit further background is the board authorized me to do special warrants when we have problems such as this. It was 1 or 2 typically, but we're running into where it's 3, 4, and 5. So what I asked Ms. Bowman to do, Ms. Rhodes to do, is come up and present that there's going to be 6, maybe 7 or 8 checks that we're going to be doing special warrants for. I'm still going to sign for them by myself. I don't need the board's decision to do that. You already gave me that. I'm sorry, I should say. You already gave me decision to do that, and the direction to do that. And so we'll be producing them. They'll still come out on your warrant, but they're going to already be sent off and paid. So some people do the whole thing. Some cities don't necessarily bring a whole warrant list to every individual, and so that's in our purchasing policy, which we'll be talking about later, that we do that. And so there's good and bad things with that whole process, and that's up to your direction, your discussion, whatever the board wishes to transpire there. But I wanted to let you know that this was going to happen, so it's not a shock when there's bills being paid. I just want to be open up front with you guys. So that's why she's bringing that for an informational item.
Can I ask a question? Because this has been a topic of frustration for me since day one I got on the board, and what's that, 9 years ago or whatever it is. Maybe more than that, I can't remember. I've never seen it before. The board has a responsibility of setting a budget. The board has a responsibility of reviewing all expenditures to make sure that the person signing things is following the guidelines established by the board. But, I mean, I've been on Lathrop City Council. I have been on San Joaquin Council of Governments. I have been on the ACE Train Board. I have been on the San Joaquin Partnership. I have been on the Interregional Partnership. I can go on. I have been on boards and boards and boards in the past, and I have never seen where an executive person had to come prior to issuing the check to get permission to issue the check. I think that I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Now, do we have fiscal responsibility? Absolutely. The responsibility of establishing that budget and ensuring that our reports back as to those expenditures meet all the requirements established by our policies, which would be that they're adhering to the budget, that they are processed in the appropriate manner, that nobody is doing anything inappropriate. So in other words, we see the checks after, but approving them before, I mean, you've been hearing me for years say that. It makes no sense. And I'll go further than that. I know that in the past, years ago, when this was a small place, yeah, maybe it was exciting to see everything, you know, so that we could tell the public and everything else. But the reality is that we are kind of working in a scenario that is not very professional, where we might end up paying fees because we have set a policy that makes no sense. Our role is not to make sure that the oil pan's hole is so many inches, but that there is money for the oil, that there is money to replace the oil pan, and that there is a person that has clear expectations through policy of what they can and cannot do. So I'm going to talk a lot when the time comes about the purchasing, but this makes no sense, absolutely no sense. Sorry.
And so it's always, and you're right, and it's always been a practice. The policy doesn't say I have to get your permission, but it does, it's been the practice of the board to sign it. And I agree, it makes it hard for us to do business. After talking in great detail about these late fees and these late charges, and, you know, I mean, we've had to, if you remember, I had to come to you and say, we're gonna pay $5,000 on PG&E every month so we can get ahead of this thing, because we were paying $100 late fees. Some of them waive them, some of them waive the late fees, but it's just not a good way of doing business. I mean, we have to do business appropriately. And so it would be better, and I think that the board, and I talked to the county, there is no requirement that you have to sign. I can pay the bills, and when I asked them, I said, do you require a monthly? He goes, you know what, you're not the only district going through this right now, and we issue warrants every day. So we could do warrants for, you could request them every day, you could request them every couple weeks, you could request them, so that's why I just wanted to bring this to you. We're trying to minimize it so you guys feel comfortable, but at the end of the day, it's causing us to do a lot of extra work, and a lot of phone calls with, hey, we're gonna be late with that bill, or can you waive those fees, and so it would be easier if the board would just allow us to pay bills and then bring you the warrant list at the end that was paid, and you guys sign it, so, for documentation, or just approve it. That's what you guys do. You sign it and approve it.
Yeah, no, that talked enough.
Good. Gish.
I agree with Chief.
Okay.
As do I. Let's fix the problem.
This is something that should be handled through the budget process in regards to what is the budget, and then allowing the staff to stay within those budget limits. So that's why I would recommend that we do. We're going to schedule that stuff anyway. So let's set the budget. Let's make the policies that fit the budget we're setting, and go from there. I don't see how doing that would come up as an exception on an audit, because we're going to set a policy and we're going to follow the policy. It is to look at the warrants every month. Okay, this is where we're spending money, and it's brought up a lot of questions and stuff. We did that when we were looking at PG&E bill, and then we moved towards solar. So it does bring up questions, but those questions would still be asked if we saw the list. It's not necessarily how we pay the bills. So I would think when we do the budget, let's do the whole thing all at one time, one package, and go from there. And let's nitpick. Let's actually look at all the warrants for the year and how much we're paying everybody, and set a budget. It's you know, that's what we're here for. So this whole thing of every single month, and getting a phone call, hey, we have a check that needs to be signed, and going down just to sign a check, that was kind of ridiculous.
And Mr. Chair, if I can clarify something, the board would still have to see, in other words, it doesn't matter if you do it before or after. You still have to see it. It is a requirement of the financial, to pass an audit. The only thing is, we're seeing it before, and Chief, to let you know, it's more complicated to do the after, because then you're having to attach it to the budget. But it would give us a better idea, because then we would see, if we budgeted, $110,000 for PG&E, but every month, the percentages are showing us that we don't have enough money, then it makes it easier to ensure that we meet budgets that make sense. But we're still going to see them. I don't want anybody to believe that they're not going to see them.
Right, and in the budget process, we go through all of that. We could go in greater detail into the program budgets, but there's no way to control the cost of fuel, for example. So we may budget for $61,000 in fuel, but if the price of fuel goes sky, we're going to go over. So there's other items that we have gone over this year that we're going to go over, but the revenue is I keep a close eye on that very carefully. And so I look at how that's going to go through, and we're going to go over, and then I make sure the revenue is going to compensate that, and then we'll make adjustments at the end of the year to come back and reconcile that budget. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is that that you guys look at a much higher view of the budget. We do break it down in very detailed when we bring in, especially the programs for like Hearst tool maintenance and, hose and all that. That's broken down into a little bit more detail when we do that with the people that are in charge of those programs. And then we bring that as a bigger budget to you. We do itemize everything, and we give you a year-to-date on top of everything so you can keep track of all that. It's just, we just need to pay bills a little bit faster. And so I think if you... we're going to move through the special warrant list right now. I think when we do the budget this next year, adopting a resolution that allows me, or having that says that, I don't know if we'll have to do a resolution, but if the board just approves me to do all of the checks, then we'd do it, and we'd go back and we'd and that same thing. And then we keep a close eye. Another thing we're going to be changing is that when we looked at the budget, the financial report from the county, I finally got a hold of the main person, and we are going to have them modify that financial report to match what I've been having to break out. And so we're going to be able to print the financial reports from the county and have them, and we're going to get rid of that one item that we couldn't get rid of until we can get out of there. We're still looking at how we can pull away from the county and that dry funding. Had a conversation with them about that. So the teeter isn't the dry funding. They do dry funding for us because we're public safety, and we have to be able to provide service and engines and responses. But he wasn't able to answer the question is that on July 1, can I ask for a warrant for 53% of my money? So he wasn't able to answer that question, but he didn't say no. So there's no reason why we couldn't request our money like we get it, put it into our bank, and then we wouldn't have that dry funding issue. Plus, we have other accounts that would be allocated towards that too. So we're moving forward with that also, that concept. So we'll bring you more information as we work through the budget this year.
And I think when I'm making, that we look at the budget, we're not looking at, I wouldn't want to look at departmental little budgets, what is Dive doing, what is,
Right.
it's there's a cost for operations, and that's what we're looking at, and then it's up to those who are in charge of those to stay within the budget, and they're accountable to you if they have to go over or stay under or move money from one department to the other. But definitely got to figure out, this is our fixed expenses, these are our variable expenses, and we know, even at your own house, someone leaves a light on, and it's like, you're costing me money I didn't budget for.
You're going to see this year, the equipment maintenance is going to be way over. We just had a lot of equipment break down, and it's, we look at whether it's wear and tear, or so that's the question. I hold that chief accountable to that. I said, why is so much equipment breaking down? And you look at it and say, okay, it can't be that we haven't done anything with it, because we've been doing stuff with it, we've been maintaining it. So even if that is the case, that there is a maintenance issue that we're not foreseeing, we better start budgeting for that for the next years, for the years in front of us. Not just the next year, but 5 years from now, if there's going to be an influx of, booster pumps going down, we better see that pattern and get in front of it. So That direction's out there, and you're absolutely right. I have to check my wallet to make sure when they leave the staff meeting, they didn't take it with me, because we make sure they're accountable for their spending. So,
Well, before I sat up here, I sat down there a couple times, and in all that time, I've never seen anyone up here ask to not pay one of those warrants. So, I guess, I think you have a full agreement here that we don't have a problem with
paying the bills.
changing that.
Okay, sounds good. We'll move forward with that concept then as we go through the budget process, which is going to be on tonight's agenda to talk about. So,
Any other comments on 10.2 from anyone? Moving on to 10.3. Thank you. 10.3, Chief's report.
okay, I'm going to have Chief Medowski come up and talk about solar. It's his favorite thing to talk about.
My favorite thing to listen to.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Larry Medowski, Administrative Battalion Chief, the LMFD. So solar, we have broken ground at Fire Station 34 for solar. Wanted to lay out a little bit of what you can see there. The light standards, those are the lights out in the parking lot. Those, the ones that are in the way have come down. There is some cutting of the asphalt, chipping that away, some trenching that has taken place, and some safety measures with some covers and plates that have been attached over there. But I wanted to, or the chief, we wanted to let you know that there is progress happening out at Fire Station 34 on that solar. Absolutely.
Very good.
We did start receiving some, I guess, estimates or some bills that we don't have to pay on the solar at Station 1, but not enough to give you any information that you were looking for. So as that comes in, we'll bring it to you.
You got to wait a full year
to really get a good true up.
Yep.
Yeah, wait, that's the key word that they use,
Yep.
true up.
I know.
Yeah.
Mine's this month, so.
The next item is the
September.
FEMA reimbursement, and I just want to acknowledge Chief Medowski. I gave him this project. It wasn't an easy task, but we got paid. And this strike team, you think it's same thing, it's not. It was totally different, but we ended up getting our money that we requested. It was $59,000 and some change, and we got that check and we deposited it in the bank. So we got reimbursed for, and that's because we were active. We brought that resolution to you to get all the payment, and Chief Medowski went up and he made sure that the payments were there, and I kept asking him we kept bugging him, and we got our money. So a lot of places didn't, so I think we're pretty thankful for that.
Yes.
So we did get that. That reimbursement is in the bank. And so update on testing and applications. Fire captain has been going on. We finally start taking applications. We went to the outside, if you recall. And we did get 16 applicants for our captain's test. So there's some from the outside and some from the inside. We're going to be conducting that test, and we'll keep you updated on how that progresses through. Volunteer, reserve firefighters, we have brought on, I believe, 15?
It's at 13.
13? Okay, 13 new ones, and we're going to be running an academy for those individuals. And so it's going to be an exciting time. We're going to be having another graduation here soon, so be prepared for that.
Wow.
Can we get a breakdown
Huh?
on diversity? Can we get a breakdown on that?
On the reserve candidates, I believe there was 3 females on that group, and I don't recall what the rest of the group was.
But they're male.
Well, yes, 3 females. Yes.
So that would bring us up to 5 females?
There will be ones coming back that we've had previously. She took a leave of absence. She's coming back, so we'll have 5. 4 on reserve and 1 full-time.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're getting there. The next is to schedule the SWAT and the budget study session. We had a SWAT meeting with the paid firefighters, and we'll be bringing that information back when we do our SWAT with the board. and the strategic operational plan, so we can look at what the firefighters found as strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. And so we will, and threats. And we'll just need to schedule it with the board to do something either here, or we can do it at Station 4. I think we've done it at 4s before, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Soon 5. It's got a bigger conference room.
What dates were you looking at, Chief, for that?
I think Becky's got up the
In March?
so March, April?
Yes, I do have up the calendar for March, April, and May, if you want to look at a couple of dates with the regular board meetings on there. We have, usually, we'd like to have the budget study sessions and the SWOT done by the May board meeting so that we have enough time to turn around and present the either the findings of the SWOT and the budget study session to you in May to enable us to incorporate all of that into the preliminary budget in June. So if we can schedule something in April, that would be ideal. And I know some schedules are kind of conflicting.
Are we looking for a day or evening, or what works
We can
best
do
for us?
something on the same day as the board meeting if you'd like, or we can do something completely separate to do both the SWAT meeting and the budget study session.
Mr. Chair, one of the reasons that, I think that it's more than just me that don't like the same day of the board meeting is, we like for them to take it back and make the changes and then bring it to us before we, we had one year where it got very confusing, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. But it wasn't the staff's fault. They were just trying to get it, as quickly as possible because we didn't give them the time.
But if we do it like April 18th, that gives them a month, because that's the day before the board meeting. And so we could split it up, so we can have like informational items, so we can talk if we have any questions coming in the next day. And then it gives them a month to come back with the whole thing put together.
I was going to suggest either we do it March 29th, which is a Thursday, or April 5th, which is a Thursday. That way it's in between.
Can't do Thursdays.
You can't do Thursdays?
For any of those.
Can you do Thursday evenings?
What dates?
No.
What dates do you say?
You can't do Thursday.
March 29th and April 5th.
April what?
Both those days.
5th?
April 5th.
Both those days are horrible for me.
Okay. I'm just,
The 12th, the week before the board meeting.
Director Gleason says he can't do Thursdays.
Oh.
Wednesdays is great for me.
I can't do Wednesdays.
Can you do Tuesdays
Do it Tuesday.
Or Friday?
or Friday?
Fridays are great. Tuesdays are doable.
I'm good on any.
Can we do a Friday during the day?
Define during the day.
3, 4?
Yes, that's, yeah, okay.
Yes.
April
3 or
6th.
4?
Either one.
Okay.
So like Friday, April 6th?
Hold
That
on.
worked good for me.
April 6th. Yes.
So both, the SWOT and the budget study session, or just the SWOT and then we'll do the budget study session after?
I don't want to, considering the fact that during the SWOT is where we not only receive, pertinent information, but also where we kind of identify the direction. I don't like to be so overwhelmed. We did that one year too. We were so overwhelmed that it was just like, whatever, It's both are way too important.
Okay.
Yeah, if we did the SWOT on the 6th and then on the 20th, do budget, is that enough time?
What?
Do the SWOT on the 6th and then 2 weeks later do the budget? I'd like to spend time on the budget because we're going to be talking about,
Yep.
changing things around, and I'm going to have a whole lot of things about let's get our own bank account. It's time. So I want to be able to spend time in the budget thing without worrying about all of our strategic planning.
So we can do the 6th. I can bring the strategic plan back for a review on the 19th during the board regular meeting. And then that way you guys can review and make sure that all the changes are in there just for a review purpose.
Perfect.
Then that way we'd have that out of the way, or at least better direction of solidifying that. And then on the 20th, we can break into a budget study session and really get in deep.
I'm in favor of that.
That'll work.
We're gonna what? What did he say?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh.
I'm in favor. I was agreeing with Gish.
So, and I agree, Director Rhodes had a very good point. So you'll be, if you want, say, direction and goals and objectives, if that's, solidified like on the 19th, then we can incorporate those costs that are going to be incurred by that into the budget as we work through the budget study session. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to see one more thing when we do it too, is that the, what is still outstanding of the audit, that we get a copy on that day, because part of our direction has to be, once we set goals for the district, we need to have those in our mind. And a big thing about that is the issue of the policies and procedures. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Our role is those policies and procedures. Everything else, the policies and procedures, and making sure that they're followed, and making sure that we provide the services that we foresaw that is what we wanted to do.
So that's a very good leadway to that. So what's holding up so you don't have it in front of you today, although you do have a copy of it. There's not been I don't think there's been any changes to the audit itself, but we're waiting for legal to look at it.
Okay.
So we've sent it to New Miller and Beardsley, and that's one of the reasons why we looked for different legal, is they need a couple weeks to look at it, so we didn't have enough time to bring it to you.
No, I understand that.
But we'll have it, but I could have it back, and at least you guys can see it, and then we can adopt it.
It's just in terms of the findings that we had. We can even use old ones. The reality is this: as we set the budget, there's a lot of stuff there that we may not be able to, with the amount of staff we have, to do in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Especially if we're moving into other areas that we shouldn't even be discussing here, I don't think, like the checking accounts and everything else. But we want to make sure that while we are setting that course, that those things are fresh in our minds, so that we do address them.
Okay.
And we do move forward.
And before the budget, like during SWAT, that some of those things that come from the audit that say, we need to do ABC, is that a threat, is it an opportunity, where does it sit in regards to our strategic plan that comes from us? Because that's kind of like our strategic plan to guide the district.
So we'll bring those. We can bring actually the ones they have in there that are current, because they haven't changed any of those, so we'll bring in that. That's a good idea. Sounds good.
And just to confirm, the meetings will be at 4 o'clock?
Well, that'd be good.
That's good.
I guess I should look at my calendar. Not that I won't have to change it, but at least.
Mr. Chair, I kind of have a request about setting calendars. Do you use Microsoft Office to set your calendar?
Yes.
Just put me as an invitee.
Yeah.
And then boom, it's on my calendar.
Have you been receiving those?
I haven't received any invitee type of things.
Not for the graduations, not for any
I
of that?
just get an email saying, hey, here it is, but I'm not getting anything that goes on my calendar.
We've been sending them out as invitees.
Yeah,
I
I
haven't,
plug mine in, it goes.
I haven't gotten an invitee.
What
Can you
email?
check when we get done, we'll check make
Make sure you got the right email.
Yeah, because if you're sending it to Yahoo, it's not gonna go, it's not even hooked up to my.
That's the one we
calendar,
send it to.
So we'll get it taken care of. Okay,
Okay,
good, thank you.
fair enough.
So can you give me the dates again?
So,
The 6th?
The 6th and the 20th.
April, and did we say the 20th?
April 6th, April 20th, and I would prefer 3 PM myself, but
I can't make the 20th. I can't make the 20th. I'm out of town.
special day.
That's a special day. Is that your anniversary?
No, it's not that severe, but I have reservations for Reno, so
Ooh,
Might be just as important.
sorry.
Just a short commute.
Yeah,
Short commute.
I can, if we're gonna do 3 o'clock, I can get on the road, I can get up there.
No.
What are we gonna do, budget study session? Pooh.
I would rather walk in with no one being in a hurry to leave.
Right.
So,
So
We
can we,
have to
can we
wait
do
2
another
weeks?
day besides 20? I'm good on Fridays, I just can't do the 20th.
We have to wait 2 weeks?
No, we could do it the 13th.
6th and the 13th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm open for both those days.
I was
Sorry.
just thinking like after the, you
I was
know,
thinking I can change my
the
schedule,
board
but that's the
meeting.
one day I can't change. I got
But would
got
that be
rooms.
too quick?
Is that too quick? And that's before the board meeting.
No, we'll be all right. We'll make it happen. We're just not going to talk about the SWAT on the 13th. It's going to
Right.
be specifically just the,
Budget.
Right.
but we'll have an idea of what the SWAT's going to have on the 6th, so.
Yeah, because we just sat through the meeting. So, yeah, so it'll be fresh in our minds.
Sounds good?
3 PM, April 6th and April 13th.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'll get with staff to make sure that we're getting the right Google account.
so 3?
Yes,
Those are agendized, huh?
yes, Chief.
Gotta let the public know we're meeting.
No, I know, but they got to be open to them. I was going to think about maybe doing the study session at the office, but we won't have the ability for, I mean, people can come, but we're going to do it in the office. That way to have the TV screen up, it'd be easier to work through, but that's all right. We'll do it at big screen. We'll do it at 4s. So Station 4, everybody?
And for
Okay.
no parking at 4s.
It should be okay.
Because they're gonna be they're gonna be putting the stands up and the panels, the
know-
infrastructure for the panels.
Let's see if we can do it here. We can do it here.
Okay.
If not, we can do,
To be determined.
yeah.
We will send you an Outlook invite.
There you go.
Send him a carrier pigeon.
Okay. All right, next item is the reminder for the 2018 conferences, the list.
Oh, where is my list? Oh, there it is.
I don't know. Did I get one?
So we have the CSDA, or the Special Districts Leadership Academy in February of 18. How come?
February's passed.
Yeah. So I guess this is the remainder of 18. So we have, no, they have one in April on Seaside. They have also another one coming up in Napa in July. And then the annual conference is in September. This year, it's in September.
What do we need to do to get
Indian Wells.
our credit? We have to join, right? Right?
Yep,
We gotta talk about that in the budget.
yep. So that says, am I echoing? Over here. So if we switch from so they offer two things. They offer the workman's compensation and they offer the SDRMA. They offer the compensation, which we're good with FASIS. That's been a very good insurance program, joint powers agreement we haven't had any issues with. And then we may not want to change that, but they do offer the liability portion. So if we were to do any portion, we would then and went with the SDRMA, then we would be considered enrolled and a member. The other option is to pay $5,000 annually. So I think the liability is probably one we're going to lean towards, and we'll talk about that in the SWAT and the budget.
And then by us attending, we get our little stamp of approval.
There's several different ones you can get: transparency, the governance. What was the other one?
And also by attending, if we are a member of SDRMA, we do get incentive points, which will also give us a discount or allow us to get a discount on our policy.
Okay.
It works. It pencils out, we just have to, we're gonna finalize that and get it taken care of. So, that shouldn't stop us from attending some of the stuff. So I think everybody has had the special district leadership recently. The annual conference would be another interesting one, and that's in,
September.
yeah, in September. Wells Resort and Spa, the Indian Wells Resort and Spa. I don't know where that's at.
I think there's some
Palm
stuff in
Springs?
there. I didn't get to look at it, but I'll look at it at home. I
But
think
the
there
one
was
in
something
April,
there.
what's the, what do they offer in April?
That is the,
Is that the seaside one?
Yes.
If I can, the one in Seaside is one that's kind of going to be a little bit different. For the first time, they're offering something for an attendee that's been there for multiple times. So they're offering a different course, different sessions. So, and actually this time they're also including the new requirement of the AB 1661, so the board will be able to complete that requirement there. So it would be a completely different set of classes and that you haven't heard before. So,
Can I call you tomorrow?
yes.
Okay.
So, Vice Chair Gish, I don't think you were able to attend the leadership yet,
so what did you attend at the last?
the one with you.
Yeah, wasn't that the leadership?
No, that was
Annual.
the conference.
That was the annual conference?
That was the annual conference.
Yeah.
So
it'd be
we're
good for you
four
to
out of
attend.
we're 4 out of 5.
What are dates on that one?
It's in July.
So for the SDLA, the Leadership Conference, there's the dates in this, at the Seaside Monterey one, there's the April dates, and then the Napa one is in July.
Can you email me those dates over tomorrow? And I'll make it work. Email me those dates.
Are they in the package?
They're in the binder.
They're in 10
You're on the
point-
back.
10.3.
Okay.
So it looks like the one at Seaside is April 15th through the 18th. And the one in Napa in July is the 8th through the 11th.
And the early bird deadline is tomorrow for the one in,
Seaside,
Seaside?
yes. Correct.
I'll call you about 9:30.
I might be able to make those dates work.
One.
The April 15th and 18th.
April 15th, okay. Okay. Get us the information.
I'll let you know for sure tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be good to get you in there, and then the rest of the board too, if there's stuff that, especially the new requirement would be good.
Yeah, I'll check it when I get home, or tomorrow.
Okay, Ty,
I think I'm good either date,
you're good for both?
April or July, yeah.
All right.
It's tough to give up Monday and Tuesday, but I can do it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's,
It's baseball season now.
yeah, I play softball Monday and Tuesday mornings.
Yeah. Well, where do you play? Napa, you can,
Unfortunately, Monday is in Alameda, Tuesday is in Hayward.
Oh,
Yeah. I just won't play that
yeah.
weekend.
They'll have to lose those games, I
Or
guess.
I may come to the meeting late.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, last thing I don't have on here, I didn't find out till the other day that I was accepted and rostered on the California Interagency Incident Management Team 1. It's a federal team as a division group soup, so I've been rostered on it as a full-time division. It doesn't really change, except that I'm dedicated, I'll be a regular member of the team, but I could still not go if I don't have to, or not go if I have to take care of stuff here. There's been times where I've seen divisions and branches leave and come back, where they've had to come back and take care of stuff at their home unit, so it doesn't restrict me any more than I was already. 14-day commitment can extend for 7 more for a 21-day commitment, but it does expand where I'll go. Now I can go anywhere up through Montana down to, they were in Puerto Rico for the flood, so yeah, be a little bit harder to get back, but it's still the option there. So it's not easy to get on one of those teams, so I'm pretty fortunate to be rostered on that team. So
Congratulations.
thanks.
Yes.
Now we have battalion chiefs, full-time battalion who can,
Right.
pick it up, so that's pretty good.
Absolutely. Yep, they're gonna get keys to the office now. They can actually use the copier now without anybody being there.
You've moved up when you can use the copy machine.
That's right. So that's all I have, Chairman.
Any further questions on the chief's report?
Nope.
Comments? Board comments. I'll start on my left here.
I have none. Thank you, very chief. I appreciate all the information tonight.
I guess, one quick comment. I was going to make last month, but I didn't because I wasn't here, so. But for the last 3, we talked earlier about the SWAT process. I think for the last 3 or 4 years, even back when Benny Gatto was on the board, as part of the SWAT, one of our weaknesses was always the lack of racial and gender diversity on the board. And one of our goals has been for the last 3 or 4 years to change that. And so I just want to acknowledge that the group that we hired last month, the class that we hired last month, was historic in that we finally brought in our first woman and our first 3 men of color. And so I just want to thank you, Chief, and for making that happen. And again, acknowledge for the board that we have reached one of our goals. Yes.
Thank you.
And we're not finished, but we've taken a giant step in that direction.
I agree.
Yes.
I completely agree.
Right.
I was looking forward to talking about that at SWAT.
All right.
We did discuss that at the when we had SWAT with the union. We're not the union, with the membership, and actually it's just not the membership. It was the whole department. We talked about goals and objectives and expectations and moving forward, and that was one of them that we think that we still have a lot of work to do.
Right.
We do. But it's better.
You'd be surprised. That's it.
Just congratulations, Chief, on your appointment, and that's it.
Okay. Director Rhodes.
And I won't do any comments, so I can go straight into the purchasing, unless you want to do your board comments first, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay, let's go ahead and do the appointment. I apologize. Got ahead of that.
Well, that's how it's listed.
Yeah.
It's
No, yeah, that's how it was.
Okay.
it can make comments on the, so the referral, the way the process works, it gets brought up, and then it gets brought back for you guys to discuss further. And so what we try to do with the referral process is get together what we currently have. We were trying to send that out along with options of other local jurisdictions that do this, purchasing policies similar to ours. We were able to pull, I think, Ripon and Tracy's, and then ours. So it's open for discussion. As far as Chairman Rhodes, you want to?
Yeah, and I guess my comment would be, thank you for your patience with me.
Director Rhodes?
And I'm glad you brought that up about, congratulations on that appointment, or is it called an appointment, or?
Yeah, you get.
An appointment, but then that is perfect segue to this, because in the normal world, you have an administrator, but you also have finance, human resources, and operations. And as a chief, you do a number of those things, but I'm going to, because the chief is looking for a little bit of direction too before they even bring anything back to us, I'm going to go through some of these pieces and just give my opinion. But one of them is the fact that as I was going through this, you kind of end up being the signature, the approval and the signature of everything. So you'll hear me say a couple of times that I think it needs to be moved down.
Okay.
But anyway, I actually like our purchasing procedures, even though they're more than purchasing procedures. They're also bidding, contracts, equipment, disposal, and inventory and reports. It takes care of a lot of them. That's why you see that in the ones that they gave us as examples, they're so short, because they just talk about pure and simple purchasing, and it's most of it at an agency level, not necessarily as it goes up to the board. But if you bear with me on section 2, which is in page 2, bidding generally when dispensed with, I'm going to go ahead and go so that I don't take a lot of time. Page 2 and 3 kind of breaks it down, and I didn't even remember some of these, and I tell you, it makes no sense. While the $100 out of petty cash makes a lot of sense, you have from 101 to 1,000, and you still have it at 3 bids. I would like to see, if you look at page 2, okay, I don't have a lot to say on petty cash. $100 petty cash is not bad unless, the chief, unless you guys have found out that when you run to Home Depot or wherever you go that you don't have an open purchase agreement, it's more than that. But when you get to number 2, which is 101 to 1,000, it's still while the bids are informal, I think 2 to 3 would be sufficient. I mean, 2 would be enough, because half of the time you're just looking at catalogs, or you're looking at, or calling somebody on the phone, or whatever it may be. Now, my big one is when you get to $1,001 to $5,000, because it identifies the fire chief shall acquire a written quotation from at least 3 vendors. The quotation shall be recorded by the fire chief and attached to the purchase order prior to submission to the board of directors. I'm used to a different kind of purchasing procedure, and I'll tell you why. Who's setting the stuff up is your staff. A firefighter tells a captain that they need something, or a captain notices it, and then above them is the battalion chiefs. If we had a finance director, I would say, let's break it all up. But because we don't have one, you still end up being the one that approves the whole process.
Right.
That is, to be really honest with you, that's dangerous to you and it's dangerous to us. I would like to see something where down the line, the approvals, so in other words, if it is in between 1,000, in between 101 and 1,000, I think that a captain putting their signature and a battalion chief, signing it, because the role of a finance officer, which you are serving that capacity, is to review them all as they've happened to ensure that the procedures were followed.
Right.
So you don't have to approve them, You have to just ensure that everybody else is approving them as it should be. So I even looked at breaking them down to where the fire chief is only the initiator of those that are large enough to come to the board.
Right.
So in other words, and when you look at it there, informal purchasing procedure from 5,000 to 10,000. If you look at Tracy, and if you look at Ripon, I mean, if you have a firefighter, a captain, a battalion chief, and a fire chief who have all agreed that something within budget, that is within the guidelines of the agency, needs to be purchased, I don't see why, number one, we have to do the formal bidding of it. And when I say formal bidding, is technically you're going through, well, you're still in formal purchasing, yeah. But did you want to say something?
I did. I think this is just items that are not budgeted. The purchasing is all.
Oh, it doesn't say
include
that.
stuff that.
No, but everything is budgeted, Gene. Everything is budgeted. If we have a budget that covers gas, so we have a budget that covers training, we have a budget, so technically, everything is budgeted. So if they want to purchase something for $1,000 that falls within equipment, that's budgeted, and may not necessarily, okay, in capital improvements, do we have a minimum as to how much we have to put in there? In other words, we don't put anything in capital improvements unless it's 50,000 or, you understand where I'm going to? In other words, it doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is budgeted.
Right.
But then, in the informal purchasing procedure, even buying phones, radios, approving everything would fall within that. I would like to, I know that I threw the $25,000 out there the last time, and it wasn't received well, and I fully understand that. If you notice, when you go to Tracy, Tracy's is in the 50,000. But I wouldn't want to go that high either.
They have a finance manager that things have to kind of go through. We don't have that, like you were saying.
But but that's what I'm saying is, we need to move to a system where our fire chief is our finance director. So the fire chief.
He's also like the city manager. See, where it's kind of like both hats.
But he is, okay. You have your operations, your finance, and your human resources. He serves in all three, but he's also the top administrator. So technically, all of those things need to be moved down so that when it comes to him, he serves in the capacity as the director, but also the administrator. So he is he's not doing the operations of those departments.
And
he is
I've been following
approving.
how that kind of works. I know,
it's difficult.
So you have a captain who has up to $1,000 where he gets whatever policies we put, if he has to get a couple of prices, and then he turns over to battalion approves it. Done. It's done.
I like that.
It doesn't, it goes across the chief's desk, because it's coming to us. And then on the next level, we've got where it's a little bit higher, battalion does it, and then it goes to
That's
a division.
exactly what I was
We
talking
don't have a
about, Gene.
division, so it would go to our administrative battalion. So it's because he's been delegated that responsibility because we don't have a division. But then eventually it's going to get to where it's big. The chief is doing the RFP, he's doing all that stuff, and we're directly involved in that purchasing. And so it's delegation of power. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to be in that position for a very, very long time.
But we didn't have the staff.
And we were a very small department when we did have that staff. So now we're bigger, and now we've got people put in place, and we've a bigger budget, more responsibility, more stations, more personnel. It's time to start delegating off and training the captains' battalions and our acting battalion to move up in rank, because Gene's not going to be here forever.
Well,
and I'm not saying that he's going to retire tomorrow, but we're getting to the end of our usefulness in our careers, and so it's it's what I mean. It's time to retire, and it's time, it'll come a time where he needs to spend time with his family and not babysit 46 babies.
Well, Director Gleason has explained it a little bit better than I was, being able to do it. But you could even, in terms of that, identify it. What would be the limit you would want a captain to approve? Now, and you can go, the battalion chief would, because you always want 2 people. But at the end of the day, the chief, that administrator, would look at all of them. But then that way, the limit would be much higher. But I would like to see that limit raised. And then,
So, and for process purposes, we do make everybody follow the purchasing, and I do delegate a lot of that down, and then I just oversee it as it comes to me.
Perfect.
And then I put
You
it
already
in front of
do
you.
it.
So we already do a lot of that. The battalions do a lot of the 3 bids, and and I have them bring and present the items to you.
but who approves it?
I do.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Your captain, let's say that you feel that the $1,000 is enough for a captain, or 500 is enough for a captain.
I have to because of what this says. I have to be the one
No.
sign, right, because of what it says. But they do all the work, and what you're saying is, what I'm trying to say is, what you want to go to is what I would like to do.
Yes, and it would be the same as what we were talking in the Warrens.
Right.
Instead of everything coming to you first, now you develop what kind of reporting system, because you still have to make sure
Well, we have a
that they're
process.
doing what they're supposed to do,
So they could sign the POs, and that's the,
and then it's done.
And then it's
they can,
done.
and if
Right
it's
now,
at a
I have
level
to
of a
sign
captain, they
the
can
POs.
just do it without it having to go
Right.
to the administration, back and forth or whatever.
no, it'd be good. We do
Then
need to increase the amount.
Another thing too is on the page after that, when it talks about rejection of bids, where it says the district board may reject any and all bids, under law, if you reject anything, it has to be all. So I would like to see the language on that one changed. You can't just reject one bid.
What portion?
Okay, this would be
I
on,
want Rhoda, she's working on this project, so I
yeah,
want her to.
rejection of bids. Keep going. It's number E. Rejection of
Reject
bids.
any
In its
and all.
discretion, the district board may reject any and all bids. You have to reject them all. Now, you don't have,
Under section 4.
Yeah.
Right there. Yep,
sorry about that,
no worries.
yeah. On emergency powers, again, if we declare an emergency, there has to be a bigger number than 10,000.
Yeah, that one has to be changed, for sure.
Then on section 9, and I didn't know this was there, and I wouldn't have cared it was there, because there's really no staff or no time to do it, but we're supposed to be getting a report showing all supplies and equipment over the value of 100, which are no longer used or which have become obsolete or worn out. This is for the disposal of surplus in number 9. $100 for surplus is way too small of a figure. Most agencies have 5,000 for surplus that comes to the board, and everything else. We can go lower. I mean, it's up to the board, but it would be your recommendation to the board. Again, the annual inventory, you got to put a large figure there, because if you are going to start doing inventories, it's in the policy. If you're going to start doing inventories, and you're going to do inventory on everything, you're going to have to have your staff work overtime for 6 months to be able to do that, because some of these things are physically impossible. Now, under an audit, sometimes they will get really stinky on inventories. They want you to give inventories to the board, but I would be looking for things that are more like fire engines, things that are very expensive. So putting numbers that are high on that. And that's it. I try to go really quickly so that I wouldn't take a lot of your time. That's it.
It's good direction.
Did anybody want to comment on Director Rhodes' comments?
It's something to be discussed during budget.
Yeah.
Because we could look at all these policies, look at everything, and redo it. I know it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, but we're getting to that point where it's not a mom and pop shop.
I know. But what I was asking too was for the chief to actually draft these things to come back to us for review and discussion. Yeah. Well, at least this one, not the other ones. We may have to go into a scenario where we end up contracting with somebody. But as the administrator, I believe that the chief is probably the one that best knows where they get into situations. And unfortunately, and I want to thank you, Chief, and I want to thank all past chief and past board members for that, but because some of these things are very time-consuming and labor-intensive, and nobody really complained about them, you know. I know that you've expressed concerns, but mainly because I was already griping about it, you know. But also giving chiefs the opportunity to feel that they can bring things to the board that makes their life and the district more cost efficient and so forth, and that we're going to listen to those concerns.
Well, I do agree that the chief does wear those many hats, like you said. And I think giving him more, I guess, buying power, I think there is a need for that. I do like how Tracy's is laid out a little bit, routine purchases, immediate purchases.
I like that too.
I do like that. And I like those numbers too. You know, the 50,000 may seem a little scary. You know, if that's a concern, we can definitely change it to 25 or lower if that's possible, if needed.
It still has to come back to you too, right?
Right, so I'm still in favor with Director Rhodes' request to move forward with staff preparing something for approval. Anything else on that topic?
No, did we get three of you to say yes? Move forward?
Yeah. Any three of us?
I do.
I'll say yes.
Okay.
It was just the way we put the stuff for referrals in place.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll move forward. We'll put a draft together and bring it to you guys to review, make
Okay.
comments, give us direction.
Continuing with board comments, I think I was the only one left, unless anyone has anything else to say. I don't know if everyone noticed in the consent item 8.2 on page 5, there was a line item for BE Tech and for their food services, I guess. And I wanted to commend the chief and staff for using the school and to provide those food services for those meetings. I think that was a great opportunity to give them the experience to provide something, and the money is reinvested into them. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool
very
thing to
much.
see.
I can't take all the credit. The staff started off with the muffins and bringing that to us, and then when we had a little bit of trouble with the food from the normal resource that we got it from, I said, let's go back to them, and so I think that they're going to be a regular for us. They did a good job. So our SWAT will have food from them also.
Awesome. Also, I did mention, and I don't know if I did this in the board meeting or in another conversation, but one of the things one of my takeaways from the last conference that we went to was the transparency and the requirements for special districts on what they post on their websites, making sure that our board packets are text searchable. And I noticed that our packet this month was, so I wanted to commend staff on figuring that out and moving forward and seeing us compliant to that. So I thought that was important to recognize. Good job,
Thank you.
whoever it was. And
Of everybody.
I knew I had something else, and I didn't write it down, so it may have to wait till next month.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing further, I will adjourn the meeting to the next regular scheduled meeting, or actually our special meeting,
April 6th.
April 6th at 3 p.m.
Yep.
Location to be determined, but our next regular scheduled meeting will be April 19th here.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
All right.